Hi, and welcome to the history of animation. In this class, we're really going to start at the beginning and learn how animation began, how it's progressed, how it's become what it is today. We're going to look at movies, we're going to look at shorts, shows, video games, motion graphics, kind of get the whole gamut of motion and see, where it started, where it's going to go. So the whole vast way through animation. This course is 100% online. There are 16 modules, aka there's 16 weeks in this course, so one module per week. It's asynchronous, so we are not meeting at any time. There are due dates that you will find. Every Sunday, there will probably be a due date. That's something that you need to kind of check. Week 1 is kind of a little bit different. And other than that, you just have to follow, sit back, relax, and watch some awesome history. So if you've had any of my courses before, they run very similar. If not, welcome. You're going to want to go into the modules each week to see what we have going on. Most of the time, I have the modules locked, and they will unlock Monday morning, fairly early in the morning, I think like 6 a.m., and then you can kind of take a look at what we're going for. There will be weekly videos, so every week you will have to watch a video. I will go over that a little bit later, but you'll see as we get going. So in modules, there's just a Q&A discussion board, so if you have any general questions, this is a great way to post it. You can check in on it every now and again. You can subscribe to it if you want, see what your classmates are asking. I'm always available as well via email. We can set up a time to meet if needed as well. Little SXU technology support. Luckily, this class is online, so you need to have internet, you need to be able to access your browser. We don't have any real software requirements in this class, so you should be fine on that front. Just some stuff, basic information from St. Xavier, our plagiarism policy. It is not allowed, not accepted. If you're concerned that you may be plagiarizing, feel free to let me know. But as always, my guess is if you think you might be plagiarizing, better to just, not deal with that and move along. So, the beginning of animation, week 1. Every week is going to kind of look the same here. We're going to have little tabs here that you go through, starting generally with your week 1 video, but this we have a little bit of extra welcome. So you can always go into the objectives and overview and kind of see the breakdown of what we're going this week, or you can start with the tasks. So I'm going to start. Again, welcome to the History of Animation. This course is a survey of animation, exploring fundamental concepts from the first moving objects through present time. This course will consider trends and developments in animation, looking through film, motion graphics, and game. We already went over kind of our learning environment, but again, just for your information, a little bit of tips and tricks how to navigate this course, and then let's begin. One thing about this class, I will be recording weekly videos. In the weekly videos, there will be a lot of video watching because this is learning about animation, so we need to watch the animations that are going on. So feel free to grab snacks, do whatever you want, but I do need you to be watching these animations every week. That's the whole point of this class. So if you don't want to, sit back and learn and watch, then maybe a different class would be better for you. I think they are fantastic. It is really interesting to watch. I'm going to show you things that really go over important topics that have shaped animation to be what it is today. So I find it very, very fun to watch them. So I hope you do too. I'm also going to incorporate things in the videos for the assignments and everything that are coming up that week. So you do need to watch the videos to get the information about that. Syllabus and your professor. You can visit the syllabus. It's a pretty standard syllabus. I'm not going to go over it in this video. I do want you to look at it. That's going to kind of clue you in as to how this class is going to run, what we're going to go over in more detail, and then policies, procedure, and all of that. So do read it. Let me know if you have any questions. About me, hopefully I know most of you. If not, I'm Jen. obviously in the art and design department. Number one thing I want you to know is my email so that you can contact me at any point. I always say you can contact me anytime, day or night. I will respond as soon as I can, but I'm not a college student anymore, so I will probably not be up at 3 to answer your email that early in the morning, but I will get back to you soon. My office is 218 in the Visual Arts Center. For those of you maybe that are only on the main campus, the Visual Arts Center is off campus. Here's the address, but you're welcome to come see us, and I highly recommend you check out the VAC. Okay? Again, in all of my courses, I want to make sure communication is key. So no matter what the question, comment, concern, interest is, feel free to reach out. I know an online course can be a little bit challenging. We don't get to see each other face to face every day. So feel free, let me know what you're thinking at any point throughout the term. I will have some discussion boards so that you guys can get to know your classmates and share opinions and stuff like that as well. Then just a little bit of tech support. If you do have any questions, I am here to try to help you, but our hub, they are the best. They know how to kind of fix any issues that you are going through. Okay, this will be our week 1 video. Ignore that it says type right now. I'm going to swap it out because I'm recording it, right? All right, so your first kind of assignment here, due by Wednesday. Now, I talked earlier about due dates and knowing when things are due. I will only ever have due dates on Wednesday and Sunday. Those are the 2 points throughout the week, so you don't have to ever worry about any other day. I do try to make it very clear when things are due. So if it's a Wednesday or a Sunday, check and think when you have things due. Wednesday will be a little less common. Sunday is generally your go-to date, but I want to make sure we're rolling, class has begun, so this is due by Wednesday. All you have to do, send me an email from your SXU email, title it Art 160-05 with your name, and then in the body of the email, the name you would like to be called, any pronouns if you want to include that. Obviously, you're sending it from your SXU email, but just as a double check, list your SXU email, and then any questions you might have. I watched this video and I'm excited about this, or anything you want to know, now's your chance. Feel free to email me. If you don't have any questions, you can give me a fun tidbit, whatever you want, okay? So again, due Wednesday by midnight. So, should we start? Should we take a look at the very beginning of animation? I think so. So, what animation kind of began as was called the persistence of vision, meaning we could watch things that were kind of moving in front of our face, and we would keep almost an image burned into our vision, into our memory here, and you could see it moving. So the very first attempts at this were through what's called a zoetrope, and I'll show you here. It's around 1834, and it's called the persistence of vision. I'm a queen of tabs, so get used to it now. Okay. So, circling the zoetrope, a Victorian animation toy that helped shape the future of cinema. Mainly what this was is a circular kind of cylindrical base that would spin, and you'd see these slits that were in between. So you would get down to eye level and look through these slits, and you could see this kind of almost like a film strip, and it would rotate around, and each of these pictures is slightly different, so it would look like it's actually moving. So you can see here's the strip that would kind of go inside. So William Horner is kind of the king that invented this. He was actually a mathematician. And again, they all can look a little bit different. The main point is that it's a drum. You have to have slits to be able to view the picture. Kind of think, if you ever have your fan, like a ceiling fan on, right? And you kind of zone out and you look at the ceiling fan, you can't, it becomes kind of challenging. You move your eyes to follow one of the blades, but if you kind of zone out, they start to blend together, and it's when you blink. So if you start to blink really quickly, that's when we can see individual blades. It's a similar type of concept. And you have all these websites, so you can go through and read them more in detail if you want. So this is what it would look like going through the zoetrope. Now, you're not seeing kind of the flashing slits, but if you look kind of on the bottom here, you can see the chewing gum going by, so you can tell that it's a similar idea there. People are still doing things with zoetropes. I think it's really cool to see different kind of sculpture and artworks based upon it, still using stop motion to get the same idea. Giving you a little encouragement that you can make your own. Okay. And then this is kind of more of the history. So let's take a look.
Hey, what do you see, BB?
I see a streak of light.
Yes. And I'm swinging a light bulb, and yet you see a streak. This is based on a phenomenon known as the persistence of vision, and is the basis for movies, including home movies, which you and I are going to make. Okay, would you turn on the light? Okay. And come on over here to the desk, because this is where I've got the home movies. Now, you saw a streak of light, right?
Yeah.
That's because the energy from the light was going into your eye and then finally going to your brain. And it lasts on the back of your eye and in the whole pathway up to your brain for about 1/10 of a second. In the same way, when I hold up this little sign, well, the light from that's also going into your eye and being registered up on your brain. And that whole process takes about 1/10 of a second. Same way as the light bulb. Now, if I turn this over on this side,
It says M.ZADS
WL. Okay. Well, the light from the light bulb or the light that's reflected from here is going to your eye and being registered on your brain. It takes about 1/10 of a second. Now, remember when I was swinging the light bulb, you saw a streak? Watch what happens when I spin this.
Oh, neat.
What do you see?
Mr. Wizard's World.
Now, why?
I don't know.
Well, if it takes each of those images about 1/10 of a second to be registered on your brain, what happens if I spin it faster than 1/10 of a second? You'll see both of them.
Yeah.
In effect, your brain will combine the two. Well, that's the basis now for making movies, including home movies. And to simplify the whole process, a friend of mine, Bud Wentz, has written a book called Paper Movie Machines. And inside are the instructions for making all different kinds of variations of presenting a series of images to your eyes. I put some of them together. Here's one of the simplest ones. Give it a little spin. All right. See, what this is a pin or a bar going through there, and then 4 images on there. Watch what happens when I spin it. What do you see?
The trees are moving and the bicycle wheels are going around,
Right.
and the feet are going up
And the feet
and
are
down.
going up and down. Well, let's take a look at it, each individual frame now. So what do you see there? Where are the trees?
Just in one spot. 3 trees, and they're almost right behind her.
Okay, now watch what happens when I show you the next one.
They moved.
Yeah, the trees moved a little bit.
Yeah.
So are the bicycle rider's feet. And notice the position of those little arcs inside the wheel.
They moved again.
They moved again, right. And here,
And again.
yeah, so here now when you spin it, you see he's riding down the street, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is presenting 4 frames of a movie to your eyes. Now, you can present more of them if you have some method of presenting a series of images to your eye, one after the other. And here's another way. Some of the early motion picture machines were based on this idea. You know what to do?
Yeah. Just.
What do you see?
I see the clown juggling.
Yes. Now, why? Where's the clown, first of all? Where are the images?
On the inside of the outside rim.
Rim, okay. And how do they get to your eye?
The picture reflects off the mirror and the light goes to your eye.
Okay, so when the the mirror is in that position, you can see the image. Yeah. Then what happens with the next image? The next mirror presents the next image.
Yeah.
And they must do it quicker than a tenth of a second so that you can see one after the other. Okay, give it another spin.
That's neat.
Isn't that neat? So that's another way of presenting a series of images to your eye. Here's another one. Look through the slit and spin it. Now what do you see?
A whole bunch of racehorses.
Are they going in the right direction?
Yeah.
Is he running in the right direction?
No.
He's going the other way. Okay, we're making him go forward.
Yeah, now they're going there.
Okay. Now, how are the images presented to your eye one after the other in this case? Where are the images, first of all?
On the inside of the outside rim.
On the inside of the rim, yes. And what are you looking at? Through the little slit.
Yeah.
Right? So that the little slit, in effect, presents one image after the other. And that's how you make these homemade movies.
It's neat.
Now, probably the most movie-like of all the various devices of presenting a series of images to your eye is called the flip book. And here is one in which Bud has got them all in the book, and all you have to do is cut them out and put them in a stack, like a stack of cards, and you present. What do you see?
The legs are moving and then the man falls down.
Yes. In fact, a long time ago, they used to have a series of pictures inside of a box, and you turned a handle, and you saw one picture after another like that, and people paid 5 cents to go in and see them. So that one is a series of pictures, but you can also use a series of drawings. And this is one of my favorites. And I think it's simple enough so that you should be able to do something similar to this at home and make your own homemade movies based on the idea of persistence of vision.
It's neat.
If somebody were raped or there was an adult incident.
All right, so persistence of vision and the zoetrope were kind of the beginning ideas as to how can we bring in movement and how can we see it be developed. You know, in the 1830s, we did not have high definition cameras and all of this film equipment, so we had to do it kind of by hand. You had to watch it happen as it was actually spinning. We couldn't like record it and watch it later. Now, the persistence of vision, I would recommend, have some fun. If you just have string and you can have a piece of paper and bend it in half over the string, kind of the go-to example of this is draw a cage on one side of the page and a bird on the other. You could use string, you could use a straw, a stick, whatever you want, but then roll the stick or string so you're rotating the page back and forth, and then you'll see that the bird looks like he's in the cage, even though the bird's on one side, the cage is on the other, because your brain and eyes are kind of keeping that image. All right. So the first animations that were actually created, okay? We have Humorous Phases of Funny Faces by J. Stuart Blackton. He is known as the father of animation. So take note, you're going to need to remember this man, J. Stuart Blackton, okay, in 1906. He used stop motion to capture the images. It's a combination of chalk drawings and cutouts. So we'll take a look at it and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. Take note, this was also before sound. Guess I can kind of talk over this since there isn't any sound. So this is Humorous Faces of Funny Faces. It's often cited as the first animated cartoon in that among its many trick effects and kind of amazing things, especially for the time, it includes a bit of frame-by-frame drawn animation from cardboard characters. Features, obviously, as you can kind of see, an artist's hand, faces of a man and woman drawn in chalk. Then the faces actually begin to interact. So this was kind of, I mean, imagine never seeing something like this. We've never seen something move before, and now it's magic. It's coming to life. It's something, you know, brand new, techniques that have never been done before. So J. Stuart Blackton, father of animation. We're going to eventually talk about the principles of animation. You can see some things are being used here, some are not, but again, this was mainly just trying to think of movement, entertainment for people. Think, excuse me, think of why you go to the movies or watch things today. Same kind of ideas back then. Now, sometimes these would be put on as like a live show, and you could see the artist working. You could come to get your portrait drawn, things like that, while seeing your show. Eventually, these would be put into theaters. Again, we're not talking motion pictures yet, but you would go, you could hear about the news of the time, and you could see this kind of short little animation or storytelling to be seen. So, while J. Stuart Blackton released Humorous Phases of Humorous Phases of Funny Faces, Emil Cole was working on Phantasmagory, okay? And Phantasmagory was 1908, so 2 years later. Similar kind of look, you'll see. Again, stop motion, meaning photographs put together. Well, you can read. You can see, though, that this does get a little bit more sophisticated as written there. Now, if you were to go see, we don't want to replay it. If you were to go see that, there would be a live orchestra that could play the music along to it. And, you know, a lot of times the animations were created and then music was written to go with it, and then it became this big production. Even though it was a short video, there was humor involved. I know there was humor in the first one, but it tried to kind of tell a little story. Emile Cole was born in Paris. I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation, but Emile Corlett, I'm going to say. But they decided to change their name. He decided to change his name to Emile Cole when he became more of an artist. He was a jeweler at first, and then was always kind of drawing cartoons. Long story short, ended up becoming a star pupil when he decided to go to art school after enlisting in the army, and then built Phantasmagory. Now, I talked earlier about J. Stewart Blackton and kind of being the father of animation. He has to share his title with Winsor McCay. Now, Winsor McCay, we're dealing in 1914, so 8 years later. So J. Stewart Blackton is the father, we'll call him the founding father, I guess. He's the first kind of animator. But why Winsor McCay is kind of pulling for that title is Winsor McCay made an animation that revolved around a character. We felt something for the character, we wanted to know about the character, and then he made it so other animations could be done. So McCay drew 10,000 images, that is not a typo, 10,000 images onto rice paper, mounted them onto cardboard. He would flip through he flipped the drawings through a primitive machine to check his work. It premiered in Chicago, so go us. And Winsor McCay was actually right next to the screen so that he could interact with his animation. It's the first animated film that had a star, it had a personality, and a storyline. This
What
would
would
be an
happen
ad.
if a kite weren't tethered to the ground?
There we go. So now, we're going to the theater, we're seeing these movies, but now you have Winsor McCay standing there. He could vocalize the written words, and then he was interacting with the movie. He would hide behind the curtain and come in front. It was a real spectacle to see. Winsor McCay became kind of a trendsetter. People realized that they wanted to see a character, they wanted to see personality. He was able to reuse frames, so Gertie lifts her left leg, Gertie lifts her right leg, Gertie lifts her left leg, Gertie lifts her right leg. Those are frames that are just repeated and put back and forth. Winsor McCay did go on to do other films, but Gertie would be the main one that he is known for. All right. Just make sure, yeah, this is closed. Oh, we get to continue on even more. So, I want to kind of finish off today with behind the scenes of Finding Nemo. So, this was done in 2003, which is crazy now how long ago that was. You want to pay attention to the personality and the characters from Gertie to Finding Nemo. Obviously, Nemo was years ago and we're still moving forward. Character development, all of that is still improving. But you can see how it's being used. And I wanted to show this, one of the main reasons I got into animation and I wanted to know more was Finding Nemo. The fact that they could create things that looked like they were wet and dry and lit and reflected light and natural light and nighttime and daytime, and the colors used throughout are just incredible. It was one of those movies that I saw and was shocked. It was one of those things that, like, it's not real, but you could get fully invested, fully involved, and kind of just into this world of Nemo. Obviously, the storyline is fantastic. If you haven't seen Nemo, get yourself into Disney Plus, even if it's just I'm sure they do some sort of a trial. Watch Finding Nemo. So this is a look behind the scenes, kind of a making of.
Want to know how to create awesome videos? Check out motionarray.com. You can do it too.
It never fails to bring me to that point. We just want to make a good movie. We just want to make a movie that entertains us, that I would want to see, that doesn't exclude anybody.
Oh boy, this is going to be good, I can tell.
Also, this is Andrew Stanton. He's a very, very famous pioneer in animation. He's been with Pixar. He's done a lot of movies. We are going to talk about him more as things progress, but just a name to kind of know.
I always believe in research. No matter what the subject matter is, you cannot do enough research because so much believability will come out of what's really there.
I went on numerous field trips and research trips, going to the museums to actually take fish out of the bottles and have a look at them close up.
I went to every single person early on in the film and said, you have to get certified scuba diving, you have to go underwater. We cannot make a movie about the underwater world without you experiencing it firsthand.
The design of the coral reef has been really interesting because we had all taken scuba lessons and gone and looked at the coral reef. It was spectacular. just experiencing the reality of a world like that has an enormous psychological impact and an impact inevitably on the work you begin to create.
People came back just with these eyes like, it was amazing. You know, I said, I told you.
One of the first things I did was I got together with the R&D group and we looked at images of things underwater, and we thought, what is it that makes you believe that it's underwater?
We put together our simplest version of an underwater set, almost like My First Ocean, and tried to make that look like it was underwater. Our first test appeared to be either a chlorinated swimming pool or a very foggy day on a heath somewhere in Scotland. We didn't get ocean water.
Each of these individual aspects of being underwater looked great, but we couldn't get them all to work in concert together. I just picked a couple shots of things above water and things below water from real footage, and I said, okay, using exactly the tools that we have created and nothing else, I want you to see how close you can mimic these actual shots. And they came back a couple weeks later, and they put the two images up, the actual live action footage and then our footage, and I couldn't tell which one was which. We were shocked. I mean, we were elated because it's like, oh my gosh, we did it. I mean, it looks like water. Then we had to sort of pull back and go, wait a minute, it looks too real. We want you to believe that it exists, but we want you to also kind of feel that you're in a make-believe world.
We just push on the story as hard as we can, and we try and buy ourselves as much time as possible to work out every aspect of the story.
It's really important for us, sort of at the head of this big pipeline before it gets down to layout and animation and lighting, to work this thing out right. And that includes pacing of a film, that includes the emotion, making sure that people are feeling things as the movie progresses.
And on Nemo, Andrew thought he had the magic bullet because he wrote the screenplay himself and had a complete screenplay going into this, which we don't always do. We thought that this whole process was going to be much smoother sailing. But the reality is once you put these movies up in storyboard form, a lot of things come to light that aren't clear when you're just reading words on a printed page.
The thing that finally makes it on the screen is all about rewrite.
Is that funny enough? Make it funnier. Okay.
And a good portion of the rewrite process is not done by the screenwriter, at a word processor or a typewriter. It's the story department. It's the guys that sit in a room with you for close to 2 years, batting out ideas, countering your ideas, drawing up story panels, putting them up on a wall, pitching things, putting things on a reel down in editorial. It's a very malleable, messy, glorious process.
Sometimes it's about doing things over and over and over and over again. And even though I've done this a lot of times, it never fails to bring me to that point wherein, oh boy, I don't want to do that sequence one more time.
When it works, it's amazing. The power of what you can do with a group of great minds. But it can also be very, very frustrating because there's not a singular mind at times.
Can you help me?
No. You get yourself in there, you can get yourself out.
When it really got dark and we didn't know what to do, Andrew Stan and I would jump in a car and we'd drive to LA. Instead of flying down, we go down and record Ellen DeGeneres or Albert Brooks. We drive 6 hours. But what that would force us to do is to just talk it out with no other distractions. And we worked a lot of good stuff out that way. When I watch the film now, I can remember where we were on I-5 when this idea was brought forward. In fact, the Nemo initiation sequence was written on one of these trips.
Shark bait! Shark bait! Ooh-ha-ha! Welcome, brother Shark bait! Shark bait! Ooh-ha-ha!
We cut the boards together with dialogue, temp music, temp sound effects. It's very important that the experience of viewing the story reels for the audience is going to approximate the experience of viewing the finished film.
Good eye!
We spent a lot of time, we spent years, in fact, honing this story reel to try to create the best, most solid, entertaining template for the movie.
Good eye!
What we decided to do was to establish a range of underwater color to track the characters through the film. So with the reef, we start with crystal clear, kind of very light greenish turquoise. And as the film progresses, it gets darker green turquoise, and then black, and then blue. And then as we get closer to Sydney Harbor, it becomes greener. The pastels are used to kind of outline the color and the mood and the lighting for the entire film. Here's this morning in Pelicans. I start off again with a big broad stroke color palette. We're trying to figure out time of day and mood for the film. And then as we move forward and things are getting finalized in story, I go back in and, just visit key shots in a scene to kind of provide a direction for lighting.
He'll put out the inspiration for what the scene should feel like and how it fits into the whole.
We'll scan them in, and then she'll take them and she'll balance the colors a little bit.
And he'll see it later, and he's like, wow, that looks as good as I was hoping it would look, which just, of course, makes me feel like $1 million.
It was by trying to make a shot appear to be like you see when you scuba dive and you're underwater that we came up with a whole bunch of elements that were critical to making a shot feel like it was underwater, which include how it surges and swells back and forth, the particulate matter in the water itself, murk being the fall off of color, that water filters differently than air, the caustic lights, which is the light play from the surface that you see in the bottom of the swimming pool, the beams those things go through, because water is so much denser than air, you can see the light shafts themselves. Okay, now how is it different being in a reef than being in deep ocean water than being murky in a harbor? Oh, okay. So now you have to find different settings for all those various things again and set the levels again. So you get, harbor water and sewage water and clear open blue ocean water, murky ocean water, bright sunny reef water that's shallow at night and at day and at dawn and dusk.
If you look at fish, it's amazing how little we did have to caricature them, because they're so wild in their shapes and forms.
They took a lot of scientific input. But there are some things you just have to do in order to act that fish don't do.
Real fish have the eyes on the side of the head. They don't have eyelids, and they don't blink, and they don't talk. So how do you design a fish that is able to talk and emote and everything that the animators are going to want to put in there? We looked at how dogs emote. The subtle movements of their eyebrows is enough to emote like sadness or happiness.
Neutral.
Excited.
Stern.
Sad.
And it's the same thing with these fish designs. We put enough eyebrow mass in there to really get the nuances of emotion. So I basically now have to flesh that design out, start figuring out the details about the fins and the gills and the mouth and the teeth, and turn her around, draw from so many different angles. So as I'm developing that character, there are some designs that Andrew really likes, Andrew and Ralph really like, and they give it to Jerome, Ralph, the sculptor here.
We're generating these sculptures to pre-visualize character design. We knock these out in clay, just like this, and we do it as fast as we can so we can get as many changes from the director and the art director, as many as we need.
That's really when the magic happens. Starting to see that 2D drawing come alive in 3D, and it's like I get all this amazing information from it. I start seeing it in a new way. I start turning it around. I look at it from the top and the bottom, because you never know if that's the way they're going to be seen in the movie.
Once the sculpt's done and we get approvals, then it goes on to the modelers, and then they actually start building them in the computer using our clay sculpts as reference.
Then we would have animators come in and help us figure that stuff out too. So the process is incredible. It's so collaborative.
Sharkbait, you did it! Sharkbait, you're covered with germs!
The shader and texture art director is responsible for taking those models, both sets and characters, and giving them life in terms of the scales or textures on the surface of these characters.
Tropical fish die a lot, unfortunately, and so they always have a good supply at fish stores of dead fish. So then we take them and we'd slap it on the scanner and we'd hold it up to the light and see what it looked like, and start identifying what the important characteristics are of that fish, what color they are, what kind of texture they are, how they respond to light when lit. So like whether they're shiny or smooth, whether they're velvety or translucent.
So you do like it, don't you?
No. I do. I really do like it.
We had, I think, this bag of tricks as animators for bipedal characters. We'd all carried around with us, even ever since Toy Story 1. It wasn't until we had done the first few tests that we had realized that it's a completely different language. I think for most animators, it takes a good month or two of like pretty intense stuff to really, really get into understanding what makes a fish feel like a fish and adapting their old bag of tricks to the new bag of tricks. One thing I always equate it to is animating fish is like animating toilet paper underwater, but like muscular toilet paper. It's so loose and smooth everywhere, but then muscularly driven that's a hard thing to do.
One of the first lectures I gave was on how fish move, and I was sort of amazed to get called back just 2 days later to sort of look over some of the things that they had dummied up based on my lecture. And this fellow was showing me how the fish moved and everything. I said, they can't move their pectoral fins like that. That won't look right. A fish can't just sort of do that. I said, Adam, fish don't talk.
It takes a tremendous amount of effort to create something that looks effortless. You're pushing the envelope, you're stressing your production plan out as much as you can to bang on the story and get the lines just right and get it edited just right.
Crunch time is like almost like literal. It's like you have so much that comes right at the end because you've taken so much time to plus the story.
I think when things get really tough around here, when you start to feel the stress build up, that tends to be when we kind of explode as a group and people just go crazy. We tend to kind of just blow off steam or whatever.
This next section, they're just gonna talk about like wearing crazy eye makeup and like cross-dressing and just trying to have some fun. What did I just
Unlock
hit?
your potential to create your next great masterpiece to save time and money.
But I really want you to get from this that like doing research is so important. For The Lion King, they brought in actual lions and had the animators and the drawers study these lions. All right, what have I done? But they had to sit at their desk and just study how lions move and be terrified about all this.
Motivation is, or simply you need to be swimming here, and you suddenly have to be at this point in the frame.
Okay, I'm gonna go to here.
She comes across more collected than I think we want her to come across as. My initial response is that you have to have a little more jerky left and right on top of your stuff at the beginning. Some hint, some tell that it's all falling through her fingers right there as she's talking.
There's a lot of this back and forth that happens, and this super fine tuning, so that you get a really appealing character, and they always feel organic, and they never feel computery.
It feels like he's locked in space, hanging from a hook right here. Did you try stretching his neck? Just like a half-beat pause. Oh, like that. He just swam. Ooh, scoot, just like, yeah.
If we've done our job, you never sense the technology that's behind it. You just get the art out of it. You get the entertainment out of it.
I remember it. I do. It's there. I know it is because when I look at you, I can feel it. And I look at you and I'm home.
I think that the interior of the whale scene is a good example of just an enormously challenging sequence from all avenues. We're inside a whale mouth, most of the time underwater, and the whole whale is underwater, and it's at night. So where does the light come from? You have to invent something that looks believable, shows the action, makes the characters look appealing.
It makes it really hard on lighting to have two main characters, one that's blue and one that's orange, in a blue environment. because you want the orange one not to go black because you're hitting it with blue light.
There was some concern about Dory disappearing, considering that we're in a lot of blue in this film, turquoise and things. But that just goes to show you how terrific the lighting staff is here.
Yeah, we're a little hot. So what color is your sunlight? That really super deep, dark blue. Get a good shadow of squirt on the father when he's doing the head nod. Some of this might be in shadow from the cabin.
Yeah.
I'd say the most challenging part of my job is usually we have a lighting crew that's 30 to 40 people, and we're all trying to make the same movie. We're all trying to make shots that look like they could have all been lit by the same person.
It looks awesome. Wow.
Graham said we got to film about water, and what kind of water? Is there splashing water? Is there pouring water? Are we underwater? Are we above water? Oh, actually, we're all those things. Oh,
Here you just need a sim of the water being affected by this boat rock. This is the big kickback splash.
yeah. The producer, half of my brain, looks at a schedule and goes, I cannot splash water in 800 shots. I cannot afford to do this. The director, half my brain says, we're going to splash water in 1,200 shots. Every shot needs a splash because we're in water. Okay, both are not really true, so where's the middle ground? If you do it right, you get a couple shots you spend a lot of money on that look just, they're so cool. Yeah, you just melt. They're amazing. And the water does everything. It's completely real. We totally controlled it. And you feel like a rock star. There are a couple shots you do about half that in, and a couple shots you don't do very much in at all. And if you pick just the right ones to spend your money there, as an audience member, you watch it and you believe the whole thing.
Almost 3.5 years. It's a long time to work on something and still not know whether or not it works. I mean, I thought it worked, and I thought it worked the first year that I worked on it.
It's like you never really know until you see it with that preview audience, especially when you've seen it so many times.
2 years later, after a lot of dead ends or wrong turns and changes, you just get sort of beaten down.
About the 20th time, you're not laughing at that joke anymore. You forget that joke's funny.
I was in a very vulnerable state, and I think the whole production was. We just didn't know what we had. So when those lights went down, my stomach was just churning, and I was practically hiding my face because I didn't know. Not only did the screen go well, they were the best 2 screenings we've ever had in Pixar's history. It was amazing. I found myself realizing that I had pretty much followed Father's journey and gotten to the point where I was just seeing everything half empty. And that was my moment of seeing things half full, for this picture.
The time we'd taken to get the story right really paid off. It was really resonating with the audience, and of course, it was also the shot in the arm. We needed to come back home and go, all right, let's crank this thing out. Let's go.
I'm hoping this is also kind of giving you a look at the pipeline. So obviously they came from a very strong story perspective. They developed their characters. They thought about, color theory early on, the style this was going to be, their technology, their storyboards, their animatic, their character models, their environmental models. They're animating, they're rendering, all this stuff, all these fixes to get to that huge point where we're ending. So Gertie was only a few minutes long, and this is a full length, I don't remember exactly how long it is, but under 2-hour film.
It's worth all the hard work. I've always known, even in the darkest days of the making of this movie was going to be stunning.
So here's some of the
And the
beginning
coral reef is so beautiful, but there's so much there. We had to find a way of organizing it, and simplifying it, paring it down, and choosing. This was a piece that was done exploring the translucency, or what we call transblurency, of the anemone tendrils.
And just how translucent we'd want it to be. We wanted it to seem inviting and not like he's living in a bunch of water balloons.
This is a development piece of Father, Mother, and Nemo. And this is very, very, very early on, even before Nemo has his lucky fin.
It's his father looking out on the world, something he doesn't really enjoy much of anymore because of what happened to him in the past.
This is one of my favorite pre-production.
The beauty of all these images is that the light is just so incredible. This is a great pastel of pearl.
Flapjack octopus.
Flapjack octopus.
In her actual flapjack octopus color, which of course she didn't turn out to be.
Oh, they have some pink ones. Character is the eyes, and I don't know if it's this drawing so much as it is about the eyes and the depth that I was able to get in the eyes that are really based on Ellen DeGeneres' face and her eyes. She's got such beautiful blue eyes and such deep shadows in her eyes. The director with a vision of the style of the film. This was really just a starting place, and the film grew from here.
So if you'd like to see more of the artwork
that was done for Nemo,
you can go to the galleries and poke around on your own. Well, thank you guys for all your help.
Thanks, Ralph. Oh, and I've loved working with you guys on this film, and I just wanted to say thank you very much.
So here's that $20.
Okay.
Sorry, ignore their banter. Here we're getting into models.
See, I suffer from short-term memory loss. It runs in my family. Well, I mean, at least I think it does. Where are they? Can I help you?
And they go through all the models. It's really interesting if you want, again,
I
the
tried to make
link
that
is
look like it was
attached.
underwater. Our first test appeared to be either a chlorinated swimming pool or a very foggy day on a heath somewhere in Scotland.
Kind of
We didn't
looked
get
at
ocean
this
water.
Here.
Each of these individual
act inevitably on the.
Sorry about that.
Pinnacle Studio 25. Bring.
The design of the coral reef has been really interesting because.
So here's the storyboarding process. After this ad, that I could have been skipping. Sorry.
Out ideas, countering your ideas, drawing up story panels, putting them up on a wall, pitching things, putting things on a reel down in editorial. It's a very malleable, messy, glorious process.
Sometimes it's about doing things over and over and over and over again. And even though I've done this a lot of times, it never fails to bring me to that point wherein, oh boy, I don't want to do that sequence one more time.
When it works, it's amazing. The power of what you can do with a group of great minds. But it can also be very, very frustrating because there's not a singular mind at times.
Can you help me?
No. You get yourself in there, you can get
So
yourself
I wanted
out.
to show you just a little bit of inspiration again, just to get you more excited. I mean, again, this is past, so we still have a lot to go forward in what we're doing. Just start to understand the pipeline, what's all in animation. So then the last thing for this week is student introductions. I just want you guys to get to know each other. Again, being an online class, it can be a little bit hard or frustrating. You can talk about your favorite animation. You can talk about whatever you want, all right? So post in the introductions, make an original post about yourself, comment on your peers, all of that by Sunday. I hope you enjoyed week 1, and I will talk to you for week 2.